Oh, hey future truckers, Shelton here. The first key to mastering your trailer's movement is making sure that you see your trailer correctly. Are you focusing solely on the back of the trailer, or are you watching the entire length of your trailer? I have come to realize that several truck driving students have had the misfortune of some well-meaning individual plant a seed in their heads, and their whole idea of how the trailer moves concerning the steering wheel is predicated on misinformation. The students who cling to this myth are the ones who struggle the most with backing. I want to make sure that this myth is not impeding your progress. While watching a student practice, I pay close attention to where they are focusing and how they react. Everyone makes mistakes. It's part of the learning process. Instead of yelling at them, which is only going to raise their stress levels and inhibit learning, I'll try to get some insight into what they were attempting to accomplish. For example, one day I was watching a student practice a backing maneuver. Let's call him Robert. Robert was struggling, getting increasingly frustrated. I had been giving him a few pointers and telling him where to focus his attention. He seemed to listen intently and would nod his head in agreement, but then would proceed to do something completely different. So after making a more significant steering wheel move than was necessary, in the opposite direction needed, which I knew was going to make his current position even worse, I calmly stopped him and asked him to explain to me in his own words what he was trying to accomplish. Here comes the opposite myth. He said, well, I needed the back of the trailer to move over to the right, so I turned the steering wheel to the left. That's not quite how it works. See, someone told him this early on in his training, and it became the foundation of his strategy. Some students are reluctant to let go of this idea for a couple of reasons. Firstly, it's simple and easy to remember. We all like simple and easy to remember. On top of that, you may be thinking that you've already proven to yourself that it does work. Let me caution you as to why that is. Here's how you can get fooled into thinking that it works. It does appear to work when the tractor and trailer are in line or just slightly offset. But once the two get offset by more than about 40 degrees, it stops working entirely. And unfortunately, instead of blaming the method, students will tend to blame themselves. I discourage anyone from memorizing the words left and right in regards to backing a trailer. They can be a source of confusion. And as we go along, you'll see that they're unnecessary. Let's get down to the basics of how things move and where the connections are. There is no direct connection between the steering wheel and the back end of the trailer. We learned in episode 1 that the steering wheel could be left alone because of the offset law, and the rear of the trailer will move a great deal. So something else must be going on. So now I had to get Robert focused on what was most important. First, I asked him a question. Where is your trailer currently pointing? He wasn't quite sure what I meant. His focus was solely on the rear of the trailer and the steering wheel. We need to expand our focus from the rear of the trailer to include the whole trailer. Imagine a line starting at the front of the trailer and extending down the entire length and beyond. The trailer can only roll in the direction it is currently pointing. We have to keep in mind that the rear tires, or tandems, do not turn sideways. Because of this, the trailer behaves just like a long wheelbarrow. Here are 3 keys to controlling your trailer. 1, becoming constantly aware of where the trailer is pointing. 2, knowing the pivot point. And 3, knowing the control point. When trying to explain to new drivers how I visualize and control my trailer, my favorite analogy is a little plastic arrow attached to a piece of cardboard. Who hasn't played the classic game of Twister? Most of us are familiar with this arrow. It has a hole drilled into its center around which it freely rotates. This center point is the only place that it contacts the board. It is this arrow's pivot point. I visualize my trailer as this rearward facing arrow with one crucial difference. Instead of being in the center, the pivot point is towards the rear of the trailer at the tires. You can imagine this arrow behaving a little differently if you gave it a flick with your finger. This arrow is a close representation of how the trailer moves. As we slide the tandems, we also move the pivot point. Notice how any part of the trailer that extends past the pivot point can clip nearby objects as it rotates. I need to be careful when I make sharp turns when the tandems are in the forward position. Of course, the trailer not only rotates around the pivot point, but it is also free to roll lengthwise in whatever direction it is currently pointing. My first order of business is moving the pivot point. It would not benefit me to rotate my trailer around its pivot point until it has reached the intended location on the ground. That's why I always have the same 3 goals attacked in the same order. Tires first, side second, tractor third. I pay attention to the ground and get my tires onto my desired path. Once they enter the box or the extended box, I switch focus to squaring my trailer's sides. I always try to maintain that tire position. If I lose it, or notice that I'm going to lose it, I will stop and pull forward in a direction that drags them back onto the path. Then resume squaring the trailer's sides by comparing it with a yellow line or a seam in the concrete. Then I try to get the tractor back in front of the trailer. My only connection to the trailer is at the front end, at the kingpin. I precisely control it by moving the front part of the trailer. I believe what I call aero awareness to be one of the 4 fundamental principles that I use every day to efficiently back my trailer. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Each episode, I'll take you to a different customer location so that you can see each fundamental in action. I'll show you how I plan and execute my setups from start to finish. In time, you will start to see some recurring patterns. The first thing I want to know is where my dock is and how much setup space, in general, I have to work with. The layout for this property is a little out of the ordinary. The street dead ends into it. I want to carefully plan my setup because there is a limited amount of space in front of this dock. If I set up incorrectly, I could get myself stuck. I want you to be the type of driver that goes into one of these out of the ordinary quirky stops, and the first thing you get is a compliment from the receiver. Imagine how good it would feel to hear them say, "I've seen truck drivers spend 30 minutes struggling to get back into that dock, and you made it look easy." It'll happen sooner than you think, and when it does, it will be because you've mastered the setup. Most beginners underestimate the importance of the setup. These things are big. They only move in a limited number of ways. Get them in the wrong position and you will struggle. I'm going to give you details about the setup that you most likely never heard of before. It would be easy to discount some of these details because of that, but I assure you that I won't waste my time or yours mentioning them if it's not important. If I were going to break down a good finish position into its most basic elements, there are 3 ingredients I would like to see. These are very basic and not complicated at all. I want the rear of the trailer closer to the target space than the front. I want the entire length of the trailer pointed as much as possible towards the mouth of the target space. And I want the trailer's tires, or tandems, on a good path. To determine an acceptable path for a particular location, I start with the finished position in mind and work backwards. There are no yellow lines here, but I know from experience that my trailer tires will often line up with these small rubber dock bumpers. I will imagine a line straight down and straight out towards me. My trailer tires will rest precisely on this path. I need to determine from which direction I will approach the mouth of this target space. Acceptable paths can take one of 3 basic directions: straight line, driver side, and passenger side. The first choice would be a straight line. For that, I need plenty of room in front of the target space. I don't have space for that here. The second choice, and the one used most often, is approaching from the driver's side. The setup route is the specific path that my tractor will trace out to help me achieve a good finish position. I'm going to introduce you to 2 setup routes. I call this the Z route because the shape resembles a sideways letter Z, and the hangman route. I call it the hangman because the shape reminds me of the paper and pencil word guessing game I played as a kid. Memorizing a setup route is kind of like remembering a set play in football. Achieving a consistent finish position inspires confidence and makes backing easier. If I set up correctly, the trailer will almost back itself into the target space because of the offset law discussed in episode 1. I'll need to follow it into the dock with my tractor gradually. The Z route is my go-to for the driver's side approach. You will see many examples of it, as well as slight variations. Sometimes the legs will vary in length. It will all depend on the lay of the land on each property and the available space. The hangman I use less often, but it is good to know, and I find it quickly becomes a favorite of many students that I mentor. You will see examples of both in future episodes and learn how I determine which setup is suitable for each. Unfortunately, the Z route will not work at this location. This property is short in the direction of leg C. If the trailer tires on my driver's side fail to reach this area before running out of space, I'll get stuck. I won't be able to point my trailer where I need it to go. I need to approach this dock from the passenger side. Sometimes I ask myself, if a trailer parked in this dock space were to exit it, which direction could it leave? It turns out the most natural way out of a target space is often the preferred way back in. I want my trailer tires to come in on a path shaped like this. When I finish my setup, I want the trailer in this area here, with the entire length pointing at the mouth of the target space. I always make a mental note of any landmarks that could pose an accident risk. The front of this truck will be a crucial reference point. Since I will offset towards my passenger side, this will be a blind side. I won't have the luxury of looking out my window and seeing my trailer's entire length. I will try to keep the front corner of this within view of my blind spot mirror and make sure my tire position on the ground is not too close or too far away. If I'm too far away, I risk getting my driver's side tires up on this incline, which I want to avoid. I need to decide how to get my trailer turned around and pointed towards the top of this target space. There's more than one option. If I were in a sleeper cab, I would pull up in this area and get my trailer pointed towards this opening. Since I'm in a day cab, which are shorter and able to make sharper turns, I can safely turn around in this area as long as I make sure of two things: that I utilize all of my available space and I don't turn too sharply for too long. I would not trace out a circle with my tractor towards the center of this area. Keeping the steering wheel turned fully for too long while driving forward could cause me to jackknife and damage my tractor's fairing. What is fairing? It's what this driver is destroying because he's turning too sharply. To avoid this, I make the best use of available space by tracing rounded rectangles with my tractor out towards the perimeter of my setup field. After making a 90-degree turn, I allow the wheel to straighten out. Sometimes in a tight area, I may only be able to straighten out the tires for a short distance before turning again. Sometimes that small distance could make all the difference. Another detail worth noting here is the terrace cutouts. They get more profound and the drop-off more severe as you get closer to the building. I could bottom out and damage my landing gear if I get too close. When I near the finish of my setup, I will be making frequent glances at my mirrors to see when my trailer points at the target space. This move at the end allows me to see the side I will be offsetting towards and my target. I don't want the front of this vehicle to leave my sight for too long. I will monitor the direction that my tractor is pushing against the front part of the trailer. The more sideways pressure I put on it, the faster the trailer rotates around its pivot point. It is a good idea to use a spotter when performing a blindside. If one isn't available, I recommend stopping often. Set the brakes, get out and look, move a short distance, set the brakes, get out and look again, until you get it in there safely. It may take a little longer, but hey, not as long as filling out an accident report or trying to find another job. In the next episode, I'm going to continue the theme of no opposite thinking. I'll show you my secrets to precise control while minimizing the steering wheel movement. You'll see exactly what I'm looking for in my mirrors, which tells me when to turn my steering wheel, how much to turn it, and importantly, when to stop turning it. Hopefully you're getting valuable information from these videos and they help you pass your driving test and land a great paying job. Please share this video with others who may find it useful. Be sure to check the description below for useful links. If you'd like to see your name in the credits of an upcoming video, consider becoming a supporter of this channel. Thanks for watching and be safe out there.